The fluorescent hum in the office kitchen was louder than usual. Maybe it was the silence that made it feel that way, or maybe it was just the fridge straining to keep up after the weekend outage no one reported. Either way, I stood there, cradling a lukewarm mug of gas station coffee in both hands, staring at a crooked flyer for Employee Wellness Month while trying to remember when I'd last been home. It was Monday, 7:42 in the morning. I hadn't slept, not even in the break room, not even with my hoodie pulled over my head to block out the sensor lights. The coffee tasted like cardboard and regret, but I was still here. I'd been here since just before 6 p.m. yesterday, hammering through the bug they caused, not me, because someone decided not to run a rollback script over the weekend. And now I was 3 minutes late to the morning stand-up. 3 minutes. And that's when Alex, my manager, looked up from his laptop and said it, all casual, all professional. Try to be on time next time, yeah, we start at 7:30 sharp. That's when it hit me harder than the caffeine ever could. I work in tech, not the shiny nap pods and kombucha kind, more like the corporate contract farmed out to big-name clients who think we're a seamless extension of their staff kind. In reality, we're the duct tape holding together legacy systems no one wants to touch but everyone depends on. My name, Eric Shaw, 33, backend engineer, Team Blue, 4 years in, one pseudo-promotion under my belt, and a LinkedIn profile that makes it sound like I'm some kind of integration wizard, when mostly I chase database gremlins and handle everyone else's mess when they're on PTO. I don't complain much, I used to, but I figured out early that complaining just made me look difficult, so I became the guy who fixes things quietly. No ego, no credit, just results. And that's probably why no one noticed when the release pipeline got messed up on Friday night. It started with a ping, one of those "hey, quick queue" messages from Jenna, our product lead, that always comes with a spreadsheet attachment and a faint sense of dread. This one came at 5:57 p.m. Friday. I was already packing up. I had my gym bag over my shoulder and one foot mentally out the door, but I opened it. Of course I opened it. Inside was a dashboard chart showing garbage data, flatlined metrics where there should have been a weekend spike. I stared at it, I refreshed it, I ran a query on the staging server. Nothing, no logs, no error codes, just silence. That meant one thing: prod was bypassing the ETL process completely, which meant someone had merged code they didn't test and then locked their laptop for the weekend. I didn't have to dig to figure out who it was. The deployment log showed PR6187, merged by A. Bennett. Andrew Bennett, our newest senior consultant, imported from one of our partners as part of some weird executive exchange program that no one really asked for but now had to deal with. Great guy on paper. Talks a lot about clean code, loves whiteboarding, always uses phrases like, "we should be leaning into this." He'd bypassed the review process using his elevated permissions. Now data wasn't flowing, metrics weren't being collected, and by Monday, the client's morning report was going to show a fat 0 in the weekly traffic digest. And I knew what would happen if they saw that before we fixed it. So I stayed. I didn't tell anyone, I didn't ping Alex or Jenna or even the DevOps guy on call. I just slipped back into my chair, reconnected my laptop, and rolled up my sleeves. I figured I could quietly fix the pipeline, backfill the lost data, and no one would have to know there was ever an issue. That's how I've survived here: be useful, be invisible. Except this time the fix wasn't simple. The override from Andrew's merge had removed a critical cron job, the one responsible for triggering the nightly sync. Without it, not only did no data move, but the backup jobs never ran either. Reverting the code didn't restart the job. I had to manually rebuild the config, reauthorize the API tokens, and reconstruct missing entries from raw logs. By 11:30, I was knee-deep in database restoration. By 2 a.m., I'd built a script to recover about 80% of the missing weekend data. By 4:15, I was so tired my vision started ghosting between lines of code. By 6:15, I was done. And at 7:42, I got reprimanded. The meeting didn't last long, it never does, just quick status updates, sprint board tickets, and the occasional passive-aggressive nudge from Jenna about delivery deadlines. No one asked about the data. No one mentioned the outage, which meant I'd succeeded. I'd patched the mistake so well they didn't even know it existed. I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd get a nod of acknowledgement later, a Slack message, a thanks. But no, Alex's only interaction was that line. Try to be on time next time, yeah. After the meeting, I sat at my desk, fingers hovering over my keyboard. The cursor blinked on a blank terminal like it was waiting for me to keep going, like it hadn't just watched me pull an all-nighter to save someone else's screw-up. I stared at it for longer than I should have. Then I got up, walked to the kitchen, and stood there under that humming fluorescent light, sipping bad coffee and wondering what exactly I was still doing here. That's when Andrew walked in. He didn't say anything at first, just opened the fridge, made a face at the milk, and closed it again. Then he turned and saw me. "Oh, morning, Eric, long night." I looked at him for a second. I thought maybe he knew, maybe he'd checked the logs and realized what I did, maybe he came to own up to the mistake and loop me in. But no, he just said it casually, like he was asking about the weather. "Yeah," I said, something like that. He nodded, poured himself a cup, and walked out. I went back to my desk, opened Slack, and typed a message to Alex. "Hey, just wanted to flag that the prod data pipeline was broken over the weekend. I fixed it last night, but we might want to follow up on PR 6187. The cron job was missing." I hovered over the send button. Then I deleted the message. Because deep down, I already knew how that would go. Around 10:20, I got a calendar invite. 1 Sync Alex Shahid, Conf RM 4B. No context, just a 15-minute block on my calendar starting at noon. I sighed. I closed my laptop. And for the first time in 4 years, I seriously considered not showing up. I got reprimanded for being late after staying all night fixing their mistake. Conference room 4B always smelled like expo markers and leftover disappointment. There was something about the way the walls were half glass, just enough visibility to make you feel on display, but not enough to actually feel seen. I sat in one of the two chairs, facing the whiteboard that still had faded notes from some forgotten Q2 brainstorm, and stared at the clock. 11:57. I was early because of course I was. Can't risk being late again, right? At 12:02, Alex walked in, AirPods still in, talking to someone in that low, clipped voice he reserved for directors and C-suite types. He gave me a little nod, dropped into the chair across from me, and finished his call with a, "Yup, I'll circle back after I sync with my dev. Cool, later." He tapped his laptop open and didn't look at me right away. "Thanks for waiting," he said finally. I gave a nod back, sure. He scrolled through something, Slack, maybe email, then looked up with that default manager expression, neutral, practiced, unreadable. So he began. I wanted to touch base on a couple things. My stomach tightened, not because I'd done something wrong, I hadn't, but because I could already feel where this was going. I could hear the tone, professional concern with a layer of disappointment baked in. "First, let's talk about the stand-up this morning." "Here we go." "I know it's just a few minutes," he said, "but it's becoming a bit of a pattern, not just today. We've had some inconsistencies." "I was here all night," I said, a little sharper than I intended. That made him pause. "All night," he repeated, like I'd just admitted to sleeping under my desk. "Yeah," I said, "the prod pipeline broke over the weekend. The ETL job was missing. I restored the config and backfilled most of the data so Jenna wouldn't walk into a mess." Alex blinked. "Wait, there was a production issue." "There was a code merge Friday evening, PR 6187. The cron job got stripped. I caught it when Jenna sent me that chart. I stayed to fix it." He looked down at his laptop, a few taps, a squint. "Why didn't you escalate?" "Because it was fixable, because I figured if I just handled it, no one would wake up Monday to a fire." He nodded slowly, but I could already see the internal calculation happening behind his eyes, the manager pivot, the need to both acknowledge the effort while maintaining control. "Okay," he said, "I appreciate the initiative, that's good, but next time, Eric, we still need to follow protocol. Flag it, let the on-call know, don't just disappear into hero mode." Hero mode. That stung more than it should have. "I didn't want credit," I said, "I wanted it not to be a disaster." "I get that," he said, still using his soft tone, "but chain of communication matters. We can't have individual contributors going rogue, even with good intentions." I clenched my jaw. So that's what this was now. I'd gone rogue. Not solved a high-priority issue with zero downtime, not picked up the slack no one else noticed, just didn't follow protocol. I could already hear how it'd sound in my performance review. I could already feel the dilution of it. And I sat there thinking I should have let it burn. When I got back to my desk, the Slack threads were lighting up. Not because of the issue, still no one had mentioned that, but because Jenna had finally posted her infamous Monday metrics update. Police car light morning metrics update police car light. Looks like everything ran clean over the weekend, nice work team. At Andrew Bennett, great call pushing through that PR, looks like it paid off, let's keep that momentum. I stared at the message. Andrew replied with a thumbs up and a line of glad to see it worked out. Worked out. I felt my hand tighten on the mouse. I could have replied, I could have posted the log entries, the restore script, screenshots, even just a dry there was a fix applied Sunday night. I can share the diff if needed. But I didn't. Because I knew how that game played out. I say something, I'm petty, I'm not a team player, I'm undermining. Stay quiet, I'm forgettable, replaceable. Either way I lose. Around 2:30 I slipped out to my car for a break. Not lunch, I hadn't brought anything, just a chance to sit somewhere that didn't smell like carpet glue and old takeout. I leaned back in the driver's seat, windows cracked, engine off, letting the heat soak in. My hoodie still smelled faintly of the office, printer toner, dust, and that weird plastic smell the monitors give off after running too long. I thought about texting my brother. He'd always said I was too loyal to people who wouldn't even text me back. He wasn't wrong. Instead, I opened my job board app, just scrolled, not seriously, just looking, not that I'd find anything I hadn't already seen. The job market was a joke right now, layoffs every other week, ghost postings, unpaid internships disguised as entry roles. But it still felt good to pretend. A recruiter message pinged, probably fake, I ignored it. Then my phone buzzed again, this time from work, Slack. It was from Jenna. Hey, quick cue, did we make any manual interventions on the pipeline this weekend? Getting some weird duplicates in the Monday report. Just want to know if anything was touched. There it was. The moment. I could tell her, I could explain what happened. I could lay it out clear, concise, professional. Or I could let Andrew answer. I waited. 2 minutes later, he did. Not that I know of, everything looked good this morning. We'll double-check logs though. A lie. I stared at the screen. And I realized he knew. He knew and he was covering. Not for me. For himself. That night I stayed late again, not because I had to, not because I was fixing anything. Just because I couldn't go home yet. I sat there long after the lights dimmed on motion sensors, tapping through line after line of code I'd written over the last 2 years. So much of it wasn't even mine originally, just patches on patches. Systems I inherited and duct-taped together until they resembled functionality. And it hit me, I'd built this place a second spine, quietly, patiently, and no one even knew where the bones came from. Around 9:30, I finally packed up. As I walked past the open space where Andrew's desk was clean, untouched, like no actual work ever lived there, I saw a sticky note stuck to his monitor. It read, "Own the narrative." All caps underlined twice. I walked out without touching it. But I didn't forget it. I got reprimanded for being late after staying all night fixing their mistake. Tuesday morning, I came in at 7:29. 1 minute early, just in case. Not because I cared about the meeting, I didn't, but because I wanted to take away the excuse. Strip away the one thing they could pin on me. Punctuality, check. Deliverables, check. Invisible labor no one asked for but everyone benefited from, triple check. Still no acknowledgement. The stand-up went exactly like Monday, hollow bullet points and passive updates. Jenna rattled through her agenda, Alex mumbled something about triaging backlog, and Andrew gave himself a little pat on the back for optimizing load times, which was just a cosmetic tweak to a staging dashboard that no one outside our team even used. No one mentioned the duplicates from the report. No one asked if the pipeline needed another look. And no one said my name. After the meeting, I was halfway through documenting the restore script from Sunday, just in case, when I got a DM from someone I didn't expect, Marcus Tran. He was one of the senior data engineers from our sister team. We'd only overlapped on a couple of projects, but he was sharp, no nonsense, and one of the few people who always gave credit where it was due. Hey, looping on something weird in the metrics DB. Did you touch anything around job 4179? I stared at the message. Job 4179 was the restore task I manually ran to patch the missing data. I took a breath. Yeah, restored weekend entries manually after ETL job dropped. Missing cron job on prod, fixed Sunday night. Damn, was this documented anywhere? Not yet, just started writing it up. Figured seeing timestamp overlaps, gonna clean up on my end. Also, FYI, Bennett flagged it as possible DevOps glitch in this morning's ops channel. There it was, a lie again, but now it was spreading. Andrew hadn't just denied making changes, he was actively shifting blame onto DevOps, and if no one pushed back, the narrative would harden. On the narrative. That sticky note was starting to make a lot more sense. That afternoon, I got pulled into a DevSync call with Alex and Andrew. No Jenna, no Marcus, just the three of us. I didn't like that. It was a Teams meeting, no camera, just voices and screen share, the kind of setup where things can be said without being remembered. Alex opened with a tired sigh. All right, quick alignment here, just want to make sure we're all seeing the same picture. Andrew spoke next, cheerful and breezy. Yeah, so small hiccup this weekend, looks like there was a failure to trigger one of the ETL jobs. Could have been token expiry, maybe a stale config, still poking around. I waited. No one prompted me, no one said, Eric, you had something to add, or Eric, you worked on this, right? So I cleared my throat. It was DevOps, the cron job was missing because your PR overwrote the prod config. Silence. I let it hang. Alex finally said, okay, let's not point fingers. I'm not pointing, I'm statting facts. PR 6187 removed job trigger prod JSON from the bundle. There was no backup run because the weekend script was decoupled. Andrew chuckled softly, like I was being dramatic. I mean, the logs weren't super clear, these things happen. They do just happen when you bypass code review. That landed harder. Alex's tone shifted, cooler now, let's stay constructive. Constructive would have been flagging the issue when I fixed it. Instead, I got a calendar invite and a warning for being late. Alex didn't respond. Andrew exhaled into his mic. Look, end of the day, it got patched, let's just move forward, yeah. I stared at the waveform on the screen. No camera, just voices, just plausible deniability. I didn't say anything else. The call ended 4 minutes early. Later that evening, Marcus DM'd me again. Weird Q, did you merge anything on master last night? No, haven't pushed anything since Sunday. Bennett submitted a patch to remove the restore task from logs. It's buried in a cleanup commit. My chest went tight. I pulled up the Git log. Sure enough, commit B6E14D3 message, minor cleanup, remove obsolete temp tasks. Inside, a deletion of my script and metadata wipe on job 4179. He was erasing my fix. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed, lights off, phone face down, just staring at the ceiling fan. The blades moved too slow to feel like they were doing anything, but I didn't turn it off. It was the only movement in the room. I thought about what would happen if I let it go. If I let Andrew bury the evidence, if I let Alex keep avoiding accountability, if I let this company continue treating me like a utility instead of a person. And then I thought about what would happen if I didn't. Not in a dramatic, burn-it-all-down way, just a quiet, irreversible shift. The kind where you stop covering for people who never once covered for you. Wednesday morning, I did 3 things. First, I exported the full Git commit log for PR 6187 and the follow-up patch. Second, I wrote a brief, unemotional incident summary, the timeline, the break, the fix, the overwrite, and the deletion, just facts, screenshots included. Third, I emailed it to HR. Not with a dramatic subject line, just subject internal audit concern, ETL incident. I CC'd Marcus, I CC'd Alex, I didn't CC Jenna, not yet. I didn't expect a response, not immediately. But at 11:16 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was a meeting invite. Follow up on ETL incident, 12:30 p.m. HR Conf C. Attendees me, Marissa, HR, Alex, and not Andrew. Interesting. The meeting started on time. Marissa was polite but firm. She'd printed out my report. She asked me to walk through it. Alex looked visibly uncomfortable. When I got to the deletion part, she held up a hand. Just to clarify, the fix you implemented was not reviewed or approved. No, but neither was the PR that caused the issue. Alex jumped in. We're reviewing protocol updates across all teams. This was an unfortunate exception, but Marissa cut him off. Right now, I'm only concerned about this specific sequence of actions. Alex, shut up. I finished my walkthrough, clean, calm. Marissa thanked me. I'll be escalating this to compliance, she said. You'll receive a summary of findings. In the meantime, continue as normal. I nodded, stood, and walked out. I didn't feel victorious, just steady. Like I'd finally stopped treading water. I got reprimanded for being late after staying all night fixing their mistake. Thursday started with a strange kind of quiet. Not the usual pre-meeting shuffle or the scattered Slack pings with coffee emojis. This was the kind of quiet that made you feel like you'd walked in on something or been left out of something. Alex didn't show up to stand up. Neither did Andrew. It was just Jenna and the rest of us, and she looked rattled. Still running the show, still clicking through the sprint board like everything was normal, but her usual energy was missing. No Slack jokes, no passive dig at incomplete story points. I watched her hands. She kept fidgeting with her bracelet. She never did that when she was in control. At the end of the meeting, she said, "If anyone hears anything weird through the grapevine, just stay focused on your work. That's all I'll say right now." And she logged off. I stayed back after the call, just staring at my screen. No Slack pings, no direct messages, no fallout yet. Then at 8:52 a.m., a system notification popped up. Access revoked. Bennett, a GitHub Enterprise Jenkins internal reporting tools. It didn't say why, but it didn't have to. 30 seconds later, Marcus messaged me. He's gone. HR pulled the logs. Full rollback already started. I wrote it all down. FYI, heard your email is making the rounds upstairs. I didn't reply, not right away. I just sat there letting it hit, not satisfaction exactly, but something colder, something like relief. I hadn't burned the place down. I just opened the blinds. At 11:15, Jenna came to my desk, in person. That alone was weird. She stood there holding a cup of coffee and a granola bar like she didn't know how to start the conversation. "Can we walk?" she asked. I grabbed my badge and followed her to the atrium. We sat on one of those uncomfortable modern benches, all steel and zero lumbar support. She finally broke the silence. I didn't know. Her voice was quieter than usual, not rehearsed. I honestly thought Andrew was just streamlining stuff. When the reports came through clean on Monday, I thought it worked. I looked at her. It didn't. "I know that now," she said, brushing her bangs back. "You were the one who caught it. You were the one who fixed it. We all saw the report." I waited for the but. She looked away. "I feel stupid." That I didn't expect. I trusted him because he came highly recommended. They told me he'd help us run lean, push initiatives. She glanced at me again. I didn't think he'd throw people under the bus to do it. I didn't say anything. She handed me the granola bar. "I know it's not much, but thanks for catching it before the client did and for not blowing it up in front of the team." I accepted it, not the granola bar, the apology. Small, human, honest. That's all I'd needed. The rest of the day passed in a weird fog. People weren't saying Andrew's name out loud, but you could feel it moving between desks, whispers, group chats, hallway shrugs. By mid-afternoon, DevOps had restored the original job config. Marcus created a shared read-only folder labeled Postmortem ETL Failure and gave me write access. Inside were logs, timelines, commit diffs. He even left a comment. Credit Isha, original restoration and data salvage. That meant more to me than any team shoutout Slack post ever could. At 4:30, Alex finally pinged me. "Can you swing by Conf 2B before you head out?" I didn't want to. Every part of me wanted to ignore it. But I went. He was already seated, sleeves rolled up, top button undone, a bottle of water in front of him, unopened. He looked smaller. "Thanks for coming," he said. I didn't sit. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I should have asked more questions Monday, should have trusted your track record instead of assuming the worst." "You didn't assume anything," I said. "You just wanted it off your desk." He nodded like that one stung. You're not wrong, he said. I was under pressure to integrate Andrew, to show he could add value. I didn't want to look like I couldn't manage my own team. I leaned against the doorframe, so you managed it by throwing me under the bus. His voice dropped. It was easier to call out lateness than to admit I'd ignored red flags. There it was. I crossed my arms. So what happens now? Andrew's out. Compliance is finishing their report. You're not in trouble, in fact. He paused. Jenna and I talked. We want to shift some responsibilities, give you more say in the architecture reviews, senior title if you're interested. I didn't say yes. Not because I was, but because I wanted him to sit in that silence, to know it wasn't just a quick fix. He nodded anyway. Think about it. I walked out of that room with a strange kind of calm. Not triumphant, not bitter. Just grounded. I passed the kitchen on the way back. That crooked Employee Wellness Month flyer was gone, replaced by a new one: integrity, visibility, ownership. 3 buzzwords, 1 ironic triangle. I pulled it down and tossed it in the bin. I got reprimanded for being late after staying all night fixing their mistake. Friday morning started the way it used to. Quiet keyboard clicks, the smell of old coffee in the break room, someone muttering about parking tickets near the north lot. Nothing dramatic, nothing broadcast-worthy. No one was whispering anymore. Andrew was gone. Alex had been unusually hands-off since the HR meeting. Jenna kept everything lean and tight, like she was rebuilding something with fewer tools but steadier hands. And me. I showed up at 7:25, sat at my desk, checked my terminal logs, clean, ETL jobs all green. The irony wasn't lost on me. No one cared when I was invisible and everything worked. Now they cared, but only because things had almost broken. The senior title offer was still sitting in my inbox. I hadn't answered yet. It came with a new list of responsibilities: code reviews, team mentorship, cross-functional planning calls. All the invisible labor I was already doing, except now with a shiny label and marginal pay bump. No mention of a raise yet, just increased impact. But something about the way it came after everything made me hesitate. It didn't feel like recognition. It felt like cleanup. Like giving me a title was cheaper than giving me space to speak before things collapsed. Around noon, Marcus swung by my desk. He doesn't usually come to our side of the floor. He's a headphones in, deep work only kind of guy. But he tapped twice on my partition and handed me a USB drive. Offline backup, he said, just in case the logs magically disappear again. I took it. You didn't have to. Yeah, I did, he said. You weren't crazy, you were just early. He started walking away, then turned back. For what it's worth, you handled that better than most people would have. If you ever want to jump teams, I've got room. He was half joking, but only half. It sat with me the rest of the day. At 3:15, Jenna pinged me. Got a sec? I met her outside near the courtyard steps. She was standing in the sun, nursing a cold brew and watching the wind nudge a paper napkin down the sidewalk. You doing okay? She asked. I shrugged, not sure yet. She nodded like she understood. Everything's shifting, she said. I can feel it. Fewer people talking over each other, more heads down, less noise. Less lies, I said. She smiled, tired. That too. Then she handed me something, an envelope, real paper, HR printed. Comp adjustment, retroactive from Q1, not just the title. I raised an eyebrow. That from you? Me and Marcus, she said. I pushed, he vouched. Alex finally listened. I tucked it into my hoodie. Thanks. She looked at me for a second too long, like she wanted to say something else. Then you don't owe anyone silence, Eric. And she walked back inside. I sat in my car after work, engine off, listening to the creak of the cooling dashboard. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just exhausted. I was clear. There's a difference. I didn't feel like a hero. I didn't feel like a victim. I didn't feel like a martyr standing tall with no reward. I felt like a man who decided he was done patching holes and being punished for holding the bucket. I took the weekend off properly, logged out, didn't check messages, didn't scroll Slack on Sunday night. I cooked a real dinner, played old vinyl on my dad's dusty stereo, even let the cat sit on the laptop without shooing her. Because I earned that silence. And when Monday came, I showed up at 7:45. 15 minutes late. Nobody said a damn thing. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.